Cordae got on social media and addressed first week sales because some people have kind of shitted on him for first week sales. And yeah, let's go over it. Cordae has claimed that he does not care about first week album sales just days before the release of his new project, The Crossroads. Talking to X, formerly Twitter, the rapper seemed nonplussed about his forthcoming album and how it would land commercially. He said this. Let's go over a lot of these posts. He said, want to say this now. I don't give one fuck about the first week sales. It's a very inaccurate way to calculate impact, especially with the current streaming metrics. I seen somebody do 11K first week and then do arena tour off the same album. That's the end of my TED Talk. Second one. Guys said my last project first week numbers wasn't good, and I ended up doing a sold out headline world tour. In the 1990s and the 2000s, music was consumed by people actually going to the stores and buying albums. Whether you did 100K first week, that meant, when you did 100K first week, that meant 100,000 people went and bought the CD. Now you can have 300,000 people listening to your album on streaming, and the units equivalent is 200. And Wale responded with an interesting take. He said, to be honest, hard tickets should count. System is broke. You know what? There's certain things that I agree with Cordae when he's saying this, right? Back then, I always give the back then more props because you had to get 100,000 people to leave their house, go in the snow, rain, regular weather, whatever weather it was, go to the store, pay anywhere from $11, if you were lucky, sometimes $9, but anywhere from, let's just say, $11 till $20 to buy one of your CDs. Now, sometimes you would lose that CD, a person would have to purchase it again, but that's how much people loved artists' music. Now it's very easily accessible. You push a button, you skim through it, you like what you like, you don't like what you don't like, and that's it. And the metrics are way different, right? Getting, like, for example, me, I can listen to a new artist, and my new listen counts as a stream. But will I ever go to this guy's concert or this artist? Will I ever purchase anything from this artist? Probably not. And there are a lot of listeners like that. That these people, they get listens, they get numbers, but they don't have a lot of people showing up for them at concerts. And that's the thing in today's time. I do agree with him that you need to, if you have a cult, a community that follows you, that's built, that's how you truly can dictate. You would think that would transfer over, right, on a new album, right? You would think that, hey, let's just say you did a tour and everywhere you sold out, right? You sold out 5,000 people every night. You would think that, selling out 5,000 people every night would equal to, whatever amount of streams. Let's just say you did 100 shows, 5,000 people. What's the math on that? 500,000 people. You would think you would eventually do 500,000 copies equivalent of streams on that album. That's what you would assume as time goes on, right? But it's not like that, right? Like how Cordae is saying, 100,000 people would buy your album and 100,000 people would show up for the most part to your concerts. But now you could have 100,000 people that show up to your concerts and only have 20,000 equivalent streams despite 100,000 people listening to that album because the streams don't equate to actual physical sales. One stream isn't one physical album sale. It's like, I forget what it was, like 1,300 streams equals like one sale or some shit like that. So it's skewed. And I think in today's time, man, I think if you focus on first week sales or just sales in general in today's time, I think you just like it for the fact of just numbers, right? I really don't care anymore what an artist sells first week. I know I talk about it, but to me, it's never dictated to me whether I like an album or not, ever in my life. I don't give a fuck what a person sells, what they don't sell. It's never dictated to me like what's great. I know a lot of albums that sold a lot, and I never listened to them. I don't like their albums, and I know albums that didn't sell shit, but I enjoyed their albums. At the end of the day, it should never dictate, what. But I mean, the internet's just gonna clown you regardless. The internet's gonna clown, Cordae if he does 10,000 or if he does 100,000, they're gonna clown him and be like, oh, you should have done 200,000, right? So I like what Wale said about hard tickets should count. I do think they should implement a way, but how are you going to implement that? How is it going to equal the album sales? Stuff like that, man. Or how about this? You buy a hard ticket, you go there and you scan your streams off an album, off the artist's album, and they get scanned in there and they count as actual sale, no matter what your streams were on that album. I think that should count. Like if you, let's just say you buy a ticket, right, from Cordae, and you get his album, right? And you actually, there's proof that you listened to the whole album top to bottom. And you go to his concert and they scan, somehow they can get a scan on your phone, like a code that you actually streamed the album. They'll give you a specific code. You scan that and that counts as the actual sale. So that way the ticket sale counts as an album sale as well when you scan it. I think that would be interesting, but there'd be ways to manipulate that and cheat it. You know how people are, man. In today's time, people just always fuck shit up. Humans cannot be ethical and just do things the right way, but that would be like a cool little idea that like, hey, I sold a ticket despite how many times you stream this album, as long as you streamed it one full time, which is basically a CD purchase, because back in the day when you bought a CD, you listened to the full CD. It didn't leak online. Sometimes it did, but we're talking like 90s. It really wouldn't leak online. You would buy the CD, you listen to the full CD, and that counts as a sale, regardless. So I think that should count as a physical sale if the person bought a ticket as well and goes to the concert. Or it might count as 2-3 sales. I don't know, because the price point is a little bit different. Obviously, a ticket's like $40, $100, whatever, versus an album is $10 to whatever, $20. But that could be a system that could be implemented. But a lot of shit can be manipulated like that. It's just a harder tracking system. I think that's why Billboard and these sales areas count it the way they do, because it's a little bit easier to track. We did have that bundle situation where people bought merch and they put albums into the merch and they counted it as a sale, and that caused a whole uproar. And 6ix9ine was boosting, and Travis Scott, and these artists were boosting their numbers, and it was causing a whole headache. And then they just said, fuck it, we're not counting merch sales with album sales anymore. And so that's all that's going to happen is if that got implemented, right? You go there, you buy a ticket, you scan your stream of the album. If that got implemented somehow, some way, that would be manipulated and people would just screw that up and get their sales boosted. At the end of the day, I don't give a fuck how much an artist streams. I don't give a fuck about any of that stuff. The old school way of somebody having to go to physically buy your CD in a store was 100 times harder than it is now. And the fact that artists would get diamond, double diamond, 5 times platinum, whatever the amount is, you got to give them props. I don't give a fuck if they don't do streaming numbers right now. Like Eminem, I don't care that he did 282,000 in streams over first week's sales. Like, that doesn't matter, because Eminem back in the day did 1.7 million, 1.9 million, 2 point whatever the fuck he would do in the first week. Because back in the day, not only was he in his prime, but he would get people to actually go out of the store, out of their house, and go to the store to buy the album. It's a lot harder to do. You can never equal, like, for example, Take Care going diamond, which is basically, it did, but it hasn't been officially verified by RIAA, whatever. That going diamond versus Eminem's Diamond album is 2 totally different things. I think Eminem's Diamond album weighs a lot more. If we're actually doing like a physical, just like a theoretical thing here, hey, his weighs a lot more because it's a lot harder to get it that way. Did Drake sell physical albums of Take Care? Yeah, because it was released in 2011, where streaming wasn't that prominent, but he didn't fully do that. Meanwhile, Eminem's went diamond back in the day with no streaming. And they had to deal with, obviously, leaks and bootlegs and stuff like that. So even though they did deal with that, they still got insane numbers. Yeah, I think Cordae is right, though. I think the only time, for new artists, I guess you can gauge stuff, right? It's not a big deal for new artists. If people are like, oh, I want to see what the first week sales, if they're really hot, blah, blah, blah. I get it for new artists. But I never understand when, like, people criticize old artists for not streaming a lot and not doing a lot of sales. Like, they're way past their prime. Ice Cube, for example, he's getting an album getting ready to release, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. If they do 30,000 first week, 10,000, that to me is not a flop, because to them it's just they've surpassed their prime. They're just doing it for the fun. They're super rich. Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and Dr. Dre are multimillionaires. They don't need the money from streams. They're just doing it because they love to do it. And they've already accomplished everything in music. It doesn't matter. These older artists, Kanye, Lil Wayne, Eminem, Jay-Z, 50, any of these, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, T.I., Young Jeezy, Gucci Mane, whoever the fuck came out in the 90s, 2000s, 80s, those artists, fuck it, man. It doesn't matter what they do. As long as you like the album, that's all that matters. At least to me. I don't really judge those artists that have already dealt with the physical CD sales and whatever. But yeah, that's my take on it. Shout out to Cordae. I do agree with what he said. I think real life impact. We've seen Ice Spice do crazy stuff online and do these streams, but then you go to her concerts, it's not filled, and she's having a historical fall off right now. Not much longevity in that. Not saying that she won't bounce back because she could easily do that, but we didn't see it translate to real life, and that's the thing. Internet is very manipulative. You would think this is the hottest shit ever, right? Everybody's talking about it on the internet, but then you go in public, in person, whatever, and go to these events, and nobody's ever listened to this song. Nobody gives a shit about this artist. Concerts, they don't sell. A lot of these newer artists have struggled to sell their tours. Meanwhile, older artists are not struggling to sell their tours because their music, people actually went out to go listen to and go purchase, and it's a lot harder. It builds a memory, first off. I remember every time I've purchased an album for the most part. Like I remember going I went to Target because Target was the one that had the explicit version of J. Cole's Born Center. And I recorded a quick Vine of that. That's the funny thing. I actually recorded a Vine. I don't know if Vine's still up and running, but I have a Vine of that where I go and buy J. Cole's Born Center album. That was an experience. I went to go buy Titso and Youth with my best friend. We went to go buy that album physically. That's like an experience. I bought Lil Durk's first album physical. I remember going to Best Buy to go buy that. There's a lot of like moments that I remember in my head where I went to go buy a physical album, and it was just a great experience. The last physical album I purchased, actually I just bought Eminem, so never mind. I was going to say, like physically in a store, the last album I actually went in a store to purchase was Meek Mill's Dreams and Nightmares. Or not Dreams and Nightmares, Wins and Losses, sorry. That album, that was in 2017. That was the last time I went to like a Target, a Best Buy to go buy an album physically. Yeah, nowadays it's like, there's nothing for me to do that for. I don't have a CD player in my car. I just don't. Actually, I do, but I don't never use it. I just don't care for physical CDs anymore. I would like the experience, honestly. I don't mind going back to that and experiencing it more. But, it's not something that, like, if I can just push a button on my phone and get the music, then why not do it that way? But, yeah, great take from Cordae, and, yeah, interesting overall.